at my heaviest, I was around 365, right? It's hard to exactly know what year it was, but around 18 years old, something like that, you know? And that came about through just years of eating whatever I thought I could without any kind of consequences. Because, if you're like my mom, she bought me all the food I wanted, because
Yeah.
she's a very giving person, single mother, so here, you want this, you want that, there's no limits. And I had no idea about the repercussions this food had on my body because I was a huge gamer back in the day, so I sat behind a computer, very sedentary. I was like a recluse, I hated going outside, so I just sat in front of the screen, ate probably takeout 3 times, if not more, per day, and it's like thousands of calories per meal, so, and there's one specific time where I went to the doctor, and for some reason I hated going to the doctor just because, I mean, when you're at that weight in that kind of health condition, it's never good news that a doctor's going to tell you. It's always something negative. So I avoided going to the doctor as much as I could, but I had to go to the doctor for one specific reason because I think I was joining the high school football team. I wasn't good at all. I just big body, 6'4", 365. Oh, hey, you can play. Maybe, maybe not. I couldn't play. And
You'll get in somebody's way. You
exactly,
could,
that's
you're a
exactly what
good
I was there for.
obstacle. Yeah.
Exactly. So I went to the doctor because I had to get a physical done, before I could join a team. And the doctor ran all my blood tests, did everything. He's like, listen, you're pre-diabetic, you got a fatty liver, high triglycerides, your blood pressure's through the roof. You're not in good shape. If you don't change something now, you will not live past 30. I don't know there's no way to know if he was right or not about the specific age.
Sure.
But there's a point in time, I feel like, in everybody's life where something has to click for whatever reason. That is the exact moment that clicked for me, where I walked out of that doctor's office and I just pictured my life in the future, just not being there, missing out on all these things that life had to offer. So I told myself, listen, I don't know how somebody loses weight. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what is what, but I'm going to try my best to lose weight so I can experience whatever life has in store for me. So that's the exact moment that it clicked for me. And afterwards, it was like a trial and error, trying to make the Lego pieces fit.
Yeah. That's amazing. There's so much complexity today. How old are you? Do you mind saying how old you are?
Now I'll be 33 in March.
33. So this is 15 years ago, about, right?
Yeah,
15 years
crazy.
ago. 15 years ago, I think it was perfectly fine for a doctor. And in fact, when I was a kid going to the doctors, I just expected that every time. Like, I relate so much to the idea of like, I don't want to go to a doctor. I know it's not good, but like,
No.
as long as I can take that feeling of it's not good and shove it in a closet in my mind and lock the closet door and like have it be hidden there even from me, I'm happier than having somebody say to me, hey, your condition is not good. This gets into like this weird thing where I want like to say, if you want to be a gamer and eat fast food 3 times a day, fine. I don't want to get in your way. But when a doctor's primary concern is your health and they're looking at something that is objectively causing some problems to your health, I feel like it's probably their responsibility to say, hey, this is not good, right? And we're getting to a
Yeah.
place now where like doctors are being told not to say that, and
Hmm.
I think that like is scary to me. And again, like I'm basically a moral relativist. Like I'm not trying to determine what is correct or incorrect for anybody. But if you're at a doctor, the doctor's job is the optimization of health, right? I mean, I think, why else are
Absolutely.
you going? So
Hopefully.
yeah, exactly. And that becomes like a very slippery slope, but that's amazing that you know, I feel like it took me so many instances of that message, and whether, I don't have like a very firm belief in God, but if there is some universal presence that's sending me signals, it took so many banging me over the head of, like, people saying, "We're concerned about you," and me
Yeah.
struggling, and life being harder in literal terms with, like, just moving through life was physically
Mm.
difficult, and, that's fucking awesome, man,
Appre
that clicked for you there.
Appreciate it, man. What was the moment for you that made it click? Because you said you went through a lot of different doctors before it actually crossed that path, that point in time where you said that we said, "That's it, I gotta change something."
I had to get sober first because I had a bit of a substance abuse problem, and so without even thinking, like I said, like there was this compulsion in me to take these things and like actively not think about them, right? Like occlude them from my consciousness, and so like eh, you know, of like avoiding looking in a mirror in literal
Yeah,
terms, but this would be all mental stuff. Like, you know, every time I stood up, I was aware on some level that it was much harder for me to stand up than it would be for a guy who was 200 pounds, right?
yeah,
Me at my heaviest. So that was just all like we're not thinking about that. And then there was a moment of like, oh, I have to get sober because I'm this is just no way to live. It's miserable. There's too much pain and
yeah,
discomfort. It, just involved in trying to numb that pain all the time, right? I wanted to be numbed out on real serious drugs 24 hours a day. And even when I would do that, I would still experience these moments of real pain and despair, that I would then quickly try to do more drugs to cover up, and it just became mostly uncomfortable.
yeah,
So I worked on that for a while, and then I had this moment where I had a girlfriend who I cared about more than anything I'd ever cared about before, and I was still in this game of like not actively, but I'd spent the majority of my life not thinking actively not thinking about my state and my condition, that it wasn't super present in my mind, and this guy I had this interaction with a guy who basically held a mirror up to my face and said, "Look at yourself. You have to take a minute and look at yourself." And
mm,
he did this, you know, because he felt that it was his duty from a religious perspective to do it, which whether you disagree with him or disagree, he felt he was doing the right thing, and I wouldn't fault him for that. But what occurred for me was, oh, I'm just through his words, I am now forced to look at myself, and in
yeah,
doing that, I suddenly started thinking about my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and all this stuff came into view about like, you know, I would avoid doing things with her, like, she would wanna go on a hike, and I would just find a reason
yeah,
not to go. She would wanna go to the beach, and I would find a reason not to go. She would wanna go to a museum, and I would find a reason. So I was actively being a non-participant in her life, and I knew that I had to seek help from her, which became the weirdest thing because that conversation, it was as though I was telling her a secret, but it you know, it felt like a secret to me, but it was also the most obvious thing ever. Like, I'm
yeah,
500 pounds and I'm gonna now tell you that because I feel like you don't know because you've never brought it up. You know what I mean? So you must
yeah.
be blind to this thing. It was really weird, but that was the moment for me.